Good
Hey,
evening. Hey, Jamie, it's Tuesday night, so guess what that means?
I got to get my bracket in by tomorrow.
Well, there's that. There's that.
Right. Oh, it's Paranormal Lens.
It's
Oh, yeah,
Paranormal
yeah.
Lens. So I'm Chad Thomas. This is Jamie Widener, my co-host. We're here again. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. Jamie, what's going on?
Man, it has been a weekend, as you know, with since Thursday to late Saturday night. Shows galore for the Penn Manor Theater program. How many times did you see or hear Beauty and the Beast played in
I
your time in
heard
the building?
I heard it once. I watched it once, but I was in the lobby for two or three first acts. So I heard
Okay.
I didn't want to spoil it because I was seeing it the last show. So I
Right.
wanted to see it like not see it before that. So
Right.
which was good because
Yeah.
it
I
was an
saw.
amazing the whole team did so well. It was amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's with this the arts in general are so valued, and especially to access as a young person. But these kids just nailed it, and um, and I think I've kind of alluded the fact that I'm not going to be here in 2 weeks because I'll be in Disney, and it was a great setup cue to get ready to go. I was really excited.
good.
There's that "Be Our Guest" song. If you heard that
Uh-huh.
before, uh, that one was pretty fun. So
Yeah,
great show, great performance. Kids are awesome,
yep.
and
Oh,
yours were rock stars in the backstage stuff and then the offstage stuff. So lighting was awesome, and all the stuff, all the doors closed on time, and the pedals dropped when they were supposed to. So
yep.
both nailed it.
So we did miss something on Saturday night.
Yeah, we did.
The paranormal Jott-Nyx Paranormal Eclipse team had an investigation at Brinton Lodge. Heather just mentioned that. I can't wait to hear about it and results and stuff like that. Um, so looking forward to hearing that. And I jumped from theater all weekend to OSHA 30 on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, Jamie.
Why?
5 days of OSHA training. So yeah, I'm I don't have I'm not sure how 9 to 5 5 days adds up to 30. It must be that new math or something.
Well, you get an hour lunch in there
No,
somewhere or
no,
something.
it's a half hour lunch.
Oh,
So, anyway,
well, it's safety, not math training. So
this is true. So
go go with it.
well, anyway, we're here to talk about telekinesis tonight. So I thought I would start us off with a video. I mean, this is not real life, but I'm gonna start off with a video here and just introduce it. So here we go.
Oh,
Jim, what are you?
I don't know. It's not me. Quiet!
Watch where you're going.
Okay, so this clip shows Jean Grey, a fictional character from the Marvel Comics. It demonstrates what it would be like to have the ability of telekinesis, along with some other things. But telekinesis, I believe, is her main power. I'm not up to date on all my Marvel stuff, so I'm just guessing with that one. The world tele no laughing, Jamie. We were talking about this earlier, and I am way off base with my Marvel stuff.
you get a pass on this one. I get it. You're good.
The word telekinesis finds its roots from two Greek words, tele, which means far off, and kinesis, meaning motion. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines telekinesis as the production of motion in objects as by a spiritual medium without contact or other physical means. Another name for this phenomenon is psychokinesis, and they seem to be used interchangeably. Wikipedia describes it as the hypothetical psychic ability allowing an individual to influence a physical system without physical interaction. Another source describes tele and psychokinesis as an umbrella term for a slew of special abilities that include biological healing and the transmutation of matter. So keep that in mind for a minute or two. So here are a few examples. Moving objects, vibrating glass to the point of breaking, lifting oneself off the ground, elemental control, which is fire, water, air, and earth. And there are even some people who believe that age and disease can be controlled by influencing the blood. So that's a very broad umbrella. I'm going to touch on a couple things. As you heard, I've had a really big week, so my research time, a busy week, so my research time was spread thin. But let's jump into where the idea came from.
Hey, Chad, before you get there, I don't know if anybody else is having this too, but I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. You're kind of
okay. Let me.
Down.
Is that any better?
Oh, that's much better. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like where I'm sitting. You're eventually going to see me start to drop because the chair has a bad hydraulic. I felt like you just kind of moved back over something away from the mic a little.
And that's
bit.
That's probably what happened.
Much better. Thank you.
All right. So, where did this idea come from? The first reference that I could find is in Sanskrit, in the Sanskrit epic Mahabharata from the ancient India.
Say it again. Say it again.
Nope. I've got plenty of words to stumble over tonight. From ancient India and was revered by the Hindu religion. In this story, Shakuni uses his mind to crawl. And you want to jump to the next slide there, Jamie? Uses his mind to control the outcome of a game of dice. When this changes history, the mind control used in this story shapes the Hindu age of Kali Yuga, and it could be said that Shakinu changed history with his mind in 400 BC. So this goes way back. This could be seen as the first historical and religious reference to telekinetic power. Now I'm going to make a jump of about 400 years and into something that could be controversial. One thing I referenced earlier was that biological healing and transmutation of matter falls into the realm of telekinesis. If we look at the biblical stories from the New Testament, Jesus Christ performed miracles that would fall into this description. He turned water into wine, he healed the blind man, he healed the leper, and he made 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish feed over 5,000 people. I'm going to jump to the next slide, Jamie. These are all things that could be classed in the definition of telekinetic. Now, when I started to think about that, I was curious about Moses. He turned his staff from wood to snake and then back to wood. And if you want to jump to the next slide, he parted the Red Sea. So that falls into the elemental side of it. So could these things be classified as telekinetic? I'm not sure. I'm not going to make any assumptions. But I grew up believing that these were religious miracles. But could this be showing us a tie to powerful connections of spirituality? I don't know. I'm not going to tackle that topic tonight. But it's just something to think about a little bit. You want to jump to the next slide, Jamie? We have Merlin from the legend of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. According to Arthurian legend of the 12th century, Merlin's telekinetic power was so abundant that he sailed through the ocean in a glass house and transported Stonehenge across the Irish Sea from Ireland to England. Now, I'm pretty sure he didn't do that one with telekinetic powers, but that's what the story says. These stories are just that, tales that we've been told and either chose to believe or not. Though we can see glimpses of TK is the abbreviation for telekinetic. Though we can see glimpses of TK throughout the years, it wasn't until the late 19th century that things were documented. It was Alexander Askov who came up with the word telekinesis. If you want to jump to the next slide. He was interested in the psychics of the day who could perform telekinetic manifestations. The Russians studied the works of British medium Elizabeth Hope, better known as Madame Esperance. Jump to the next one. She was said to have the ability to automatically create ectoplasm out of thin air and turn tables without touching them. Unfortunately, de Esperance was exposed as a fraud in 1880. So Askov then began to study another medium named Eusapia Palladino. You want to jump to the next slide? And you can see the two of them here while she's trying to levitate a table. She was an Italian medium who touted the ability to levitate and maneuver objects telekinetically. Unfortunately, she was also exposed as a fraud by the British Society for Psychic Research. It was discovered that she was raising tables with her foot and kicking objects across the room. So far, this isn't looking too good. In the 1930s, J.B. Rhine, an American botanist turned parapsychologist, who was actually the first parapsychologist, took telekinesis to the laboratory. In 1934, Rhine met up with a gambler. No, they weren't too tired to sleep. Who believed he can control dice with his mind. Rhine broke the testing down into simple controls that could be tested in the laboratory. It was first tested by throwing the dice by hand, then dice with a cup, and then by machine. Apparently, 650,000 dice rolls were documented through the research. And the research showed that the results were better than average of him being able to control the dice. But I couldn't find any documentation as to what those actual numbers were. And a lot of these things, it's like there's stories, and then all of a sudden there's no more information. So I get the feeling that it was like, oh, this isn't real great and like great research, so it just sort of dropped off. Another researcher in the field was Håkan Gabriel Forwald. Forwald was an electrical engineer, inventor, and eventual parapsychologist. He began studying telekinesis in 1950. He was a research fellow at both the University of Pittsburgh and Duke University, so pretty esteemed research fellow. And if you want to jump to the next slide, he received the William McDougall Award for Distinguished Work in Parapsychology for his paper, Confirmation of the PK Placement Effect, in 1958. In an article from the encyclopedia.com, it states, in 1969, he contributed Mind, Matter, and Gravitation, a theoretical and experimental study, to the Parapsychology Foundation monograph series. In this paper, he discusses his experiments in psychokinesis and states that they led to the recognition of mathematical structures which are the same. If you want to jump to the next slide, sorry. In this paper, he discusses his experiments in psychokinesis and states that they led to recognition of mathematical structures which are the same in PK forces as observed in physics. The findings suggested that the PK forces are a gravitational kind and that they originate from the mental influence of atomic nuclei in the materials which are used in the movable bodies of the experiments. So that was a mouthful. But he was apparently he was on the path of trying to prove this mathematically as a gravitational force that was being controlled. Again, there's a lot of research that leads up to this, and then there's not much after this. So it's hard to find a complete thread through any of this research. Another person who came up in my research was Nina Kulagini, a Russian woman who was in the Red Army. The last 20 years of her life, her abilities were studied by the Army. Here's a short video showing part of the Leningrad experiments.
Nina Kulagina was the Soviet Union's preeminent telekinetic medium. Her psychic feats were well documented in these home movies and captured by Russian scientists on the secret films you're about to see. Focusing her will on a target object, Kulagina was able to move objects weighing up to 1 pound, using the raw power of only her mind. During these experiments, she claimed to feel a sharp pain in her spine, and scientists recorded her heart racing to 180 beats per minute. Startled scientists suggested in Kulagina's case, the electromagnetic energy normally emitted from living tissue was greatly amplified. By placing her hands in close proximity to a target object, This energy field was actually able to move it.
She was taken to various laboratories throughout the Soviet Union to be measured, studied, researched, and the KGB was behind it as far as I know.
Intrigued by their initial success with Kulagina, Soviet researchers decided to see what the limits of her powers were. They knew she could affect inanimate objects, but what about living tissue like a beating heart? On March 10, 1970, Soviet researchers decided to put Kulagina to the test. She would attempt to alter the heartbeat of a frog, simultaneously monitoring Kulagina and the frog's heart. They found that the powerful psychic could actually speed up and slow down its rhythm on command. This was truly a revolutionary breakthrough in parapsychology research. They discovered that telekinetic power could be used to affect the bioelectrical impulses of living tissue. And then, in a disturbing demonstration of her abilities, Kulagina successfully commanded the heart to stop beating.
Nope. Wrong button. So I'm not sure. Abilities or trickery? I don't know. It's hard to say. Kulagina claimed that she would first recognize her ability, which she believed she had inherited from her mother, when she realized that items spontaneously moved around her when she was angry. Kulagina said that in order to manifest the effect, she required a period of meditation to clear her mind of all thoughts. When she obtained the focus required, she reported a sharp pain in her spine and blurring of her eyesight. Reportedly, storms and humidity interfered with her abilities to perform psychokinetic acts. She was observed able to do the following things: spin a compass needle 360 degrees in either direction, stop a pendulum or change the direction of its swing, move a hydrometer floating in water within a wire cage, prevent a scale from unbalancing when extra weight was placed on one of its pans. And then you saw in the video things that she was able to move that were inside a plastic cover. Apparently, when shields were put up between her and the thing, she still was able to move things. It is believed that she was successful almost 80% of the time she attempted to manipulate objects. That's a pretty high number. Having a hostile observer present seemed to hinder but not halt her abilities. It would just take her longer to focus and be able to do the things she was trying to do. One thing that did have an effect was if the object was in a hermetically sealed vacuum container. Interestingly, there were psychological changes that happened while she was working with telekinesis. Her resting heart rate was recorded at about 85 beats per minute, which is pretty standard. Her working or like walking heart rate was 132, but when practicing TK, her heart rate went up to between 180 and 240 beats per minute. She would also lose weight during her sessions. It was believed that she could lose about 2 kilograms or 4.4 pounds per session. I'm thinking, Jamie, maybe I should start working on telekinesis.
You and me both.
She also reported extreme exhaustion, dizziness, pain in the neck, upper spine, leg, and feet pain, general aches, and a metallic taste in her mouth. She sometimes required breaks of 1 or more days between sessions. When hooked up to an EEG monitor, she would show extreme changes during the TK session, including a concentration of energy in the direction which she was gazing. She was filmed quite often performing telekinesis, but first by her husband and then later by other observers. Many clips can be found on the internet, but the film is grainy and unclear. Kulagina was accused of fraud, but to this day, no one has been able to prove or disprove what she did. So that I found, of all the people out there that I researched, she was the most documented, interesting, and just like amazing in my mind person. I'm going to jump more to a modern day. One of the most recognized names in psychokinesis of our time is Uri Geller. You want to jump to the next slide? Geller is an Israeli British self-proclaimed psychic. He is famous for going on television and bending spoons with minimal touch. And if you haven't seen what he does, I just have a short, like 19-second video here. Again, it's old video, so it's not great quality, but I'm going to go ahead and play it.
Can I feel the soft spot?
Okay, sign it. No.
Yes, this one is for me.
Again, the video quality is pretty poor on that, as are most of the ones that I could find out there. His big game was just rubbing the spoon and it would bend. He would do this multiple times in front of a group of people. Then he did that same thing where he would offer to sign it for him and give it to him. Investigators and illusionist James Randi called Geller out as a fraud. He claimed that Geller would misdirect people and bend the spoon manually and slowly reveal the bend. Randi actually offered a prize of $1 million to anyone who could demonstrate any paranormal abilities. So that is still standing out there. There are actually several things, several rewards out there for people who are willing and can prove that they can move things telekinetically. Geller did an appearance on the Tonight Show one night and made an absolute fool of himself. Actually, I don't know if he made a fool of himself or if Johnny Carson made a fool of him, but it was a combined effort. He just sat there for like 20 minutes and said, "I'll get to it in a minute. I'll get to it," because they had everything laid out in front of him, and he couldn't perform. He couldn't do it. The backstory of that is Carson's people had contacted James Randi, and James Randi told them what to put out and how to put it out and lay it out so that he wouldn't be able to do his feat. So I found that sort of interesting. According to the Paranormal Encyclopedia, in the November 2007 issue of the German magazine Magic World, Geller appeared to change tactics and say, "I'll no longer say that I have supernatural powers. I am an entertainer. I want to do a good show. My entire character has changed." He has also begun referring to himself as a mystifier rather than a psychic. However, he has not categorically recanted his claim to have supernatural powers, preferring to leave it up to the audience to decide. Skeptics claim that it is an obvious strategy to distance himself from his previous debunked claims without admitting to being a liar. So this whole topic, Jamie, is one that I'm not sure where I land.
Yeah.
There are definitely some things that are interesting. Nina Kulagina was said to be successful 80% of the time. That is way above the average. Like, it's statistically, that's amazing. Then we have people like Uri Geller who admitted to being a showman. It's people like this who bring doubt into the paranormal world and the stuff that we do. Most people want to see repeatable proof. Unfortunately, I don't think we will ever have that proof on this plane of existence. So from Shakuni to JB Ryan to Kalugini, we have many stories, but proof still eludes us. I'm going to bring up the point that most of us carry a powerful camera in our pockets every day. Why hasn't someone been able to take a video of this? As much as I want to believe that the ability of telekinesis exists, I just don't think it's there. Is it something that belongs in folklore, movies, and video games? What are your thoughts, Jamie?
Oh man, well, it's interesting. The idea is it's not new, and I remember being younger, and I would say a kid maybe even, but when Geller was on the Tonight Show, I remember that episode or that night, and it was the most bizarre thing because there was a lot of hype around. He had a following at that time, as much as pre-internet, the world was then. It was more word of mouth and small clip stuff that you would see on shows, but it seemed like a big deal. And then, that night it was just the most odd thing. And I get, we talk about this all the time in the paranormal, things that we do with with folks coming to the brewery, with our public investigations, that it's not an on-demand thing. And maybe it's not for him as well, or anyone else. But, I agree with you. There seemingly should be more, especially if it's a current event happening. I get the older, the video from Russia looks a lot like a propaganda video to some degree of all that stuff we used to see back in the day,
right?
In the 60s and 70s, and what you can't see in that video, what the skeptic in me wants to see, is what's happening underneath the table while stuff's moving on top of it. Is there someone else manipulating this? I need a table without a cloth. I need an open space to see the whole thing, and I'm just not getting any of that. So I want to say no.
A lot of the comments on the YouTube video were like, "Oh, there's magnets. There's there's lots of ways of doing this."
Yeah. You can't. She's holding her hands this way. You can't see. I'm not seeing the whole hand. I don't know if there's something underneath between fingers. I mean, there could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Magnets don't have to be those old Acme ones that the Coyote got to get the Roadrunner.
Right.
So it's just. I mean, I want to believe it. It sounds cool,
Jamie,
right?
What if, with the power of thought, you could control the beating of a heart, or raise my hand, or
Right. Pull my finger. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, but the consequences of that then as well. Like,
sure.
maybe it's good that we don't have that ability.
Well, if it were such a thing, and bear with me, I'm going to get go on the dark side of this, but it would be a weaponized opportunity then, and that would be well above anything that we could do subversively, sending people to places. I mean, if you could just get near somebody and do this with your mind, I mean, it changes the world.
Right.
And that's a very scary thing at that point, and there have been a lot of movies in that direction, paranormal stuff, and not, so the idea that we would have that out there, it's creepy.
Right. The other thing that became difficult in researching this was separating the movies that were out about it, the video games. There's so many things that media has turned telekinesis into. It was like, was that that was actually a movie. I mean, Carrie is another movie that uses telekinesis, and there's just all sorts of things out there.
Yep.
Stories. So.
Well, yeah, and it's fantasy in that case. So the stuff that you see in media, I mean, this is Star Wars and the Force, right?
Yoda,
right? Yeah, and any Jedi for that matter. They always seem to go. Something comes at them they need. It brings to mind the Kevin Smith film Mallrats. There's a scene near the end when his character Silent Bob is hanging upside down trying to get this video cassette tape that fell, and he's just and all of a sudden it flips up into his hand, and he's like, ooh, fantasy, pure fantasy. But that moment, like, if we really needed something to happen, could we do it? And it's, to me, maybe it's the same concept as like the superhuman strength someone can possess when a crisis occurs. Like someone's trapped in a car, and you hear the stories of somebody being able to lift it enough to pull the person out or get the person pulled out. That sheer moment of just raw energy, that we all have the ability, I guess, to do. I mean, if we're not touching the part of us that can do this on a regular basis, how do we know we can't do it? Right.
Well, and even Nina, who could do this on demand, it took her a lot of work to get to that point.
Right. And the question I would ask is, how did you figure this out? Not what can you do, which is, we're going to find that out, because, if she's a part of the Red Army, she's never going anywhere else. So, they got her. So, it's like, how did you figure out you could do this? Because that's what I would want to know, to get others to be able to do it as well.
Right.
That's again, that goes back to the whole control thing, and that is overly scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there could be a squad of people out there that could do this.
Right.
Or more.
Well, I think there were more videos in that series. That was from Paranormal TV, and that was one of the questions: were the plans to figure out how to do this to control battle?
Right.
And that is, you said, scary. That just yeah.
What do you guys think? Yeah, what you guys in the audience tonight? What do you think about this? I'm looking for a third, or fourth, or fifth opinion. Not sure where I sit yet. I will say this, and there are so many times when I have my pen has rolled off my desk that I would love to have this ability, So it can't be all bad, but you get you you want that last cookie. You see the kids going for it, something. There's got to be some good in this,
right?
But
and maybe it is that it's smaller things that we can control, or have the ability to control.
What I thought was interesting about the video with Nina is that everything seemed to be metallic, right? The frog obviously not, but I can't see that frog well enough to tell even if it is a live frog or not. I just can't,
exactly.
And that's fair for the time and the era and the technology that existed to make that video. And perhaps it's intentional too. I mean, it looks a bit staged with somebody standing there talking. I couldn't get past that propaganda video kind of thing. But everything appeared to be metal, and the idea that they presented, the talking head there presented, was that of the electromagnetic field that we all create, perhaps hers was stronger, or more robust in some way, or more she had the ability to magnify it in isolated situations, and that would explain the elevated heart rate. That would explain. I'm wondering, and I didn't hear it from what you presented, but I'm wondering if there was an elevated temperature as well. The kind of stuff like when you're straining, your body just elevates things. You're tensing, so perhaps the back hurts. The spine issue she's experiencing, those kind of things. You're just that intensely focused.
Now
that's interesting too.
The one thing that didn't look metallic was the matchbox. She was pushing a matchbox. She had I guess somebody had laid out several matches, and then the matchbox pushed into the matches. So that one, maybe, I don't know. I found it interesting though that things in a vacuum she couldn't control.
Right.
So maybe that has to do with the lack of air and being able to push. I don't know.
There's something. There's got to be something to it as well, in the sense that she was making motion. That could be creating some kind of an air pattern. There's a term for that. I'm drawing a blank on, but it's aero something. It's not aerodynamics, but there's some aero term, that other word, that helps to identify that concept of using, the force of your movement to create wind, for lack of a better way of saying it, to manipulate stuff without actually having to touch it. I don't know, dude. This is an interesting thing. It really is. And I guess if you're going to ask me, to be like nail it down, and I'm on the fence. I don't have a yes or no yet at this point, and it's I don't know enough, I guess, either. As the subject expert on this, where do you land?
I land somewhere in the middle as well. I just don't feel like there's enough information there to say that if anything, it's definitely going to be on the paranormal side of things. Like it's not, but I just don't see enough proof to say that it actually happens. I mean, we've got one person documented who has actually been able to do it. There's got to be more.
Yeah. Well, maybe there is, and they're just in some government lab somewhere. We're never going to know about them.
There's this too,
Once a government says they're doing something, everybody else is jumping on it as well. So
I know I can never quiet my mind to that point. Like I would never be able to do this. So
right, well, that's a fair point too. Obviously we can't tell how old she was, but she seemed aged beyond like a 20-year-old or something. So that's maybe it just took a lifetime to get there.
Right.
How many individuals through history have been identified as having electronic power? That's a really great question. And
yeah, I mean that's every almost everybody who was who claimed that they had it were debunked.
Yeah.
Except for the only one that I could find at this point is Nina, and a lot of people claimed that she couldn't do it, but then there's other proof that she could.
Well, this kind of reminds me of earlier today. I was reading an article about, and I'm drawing a blank on the woman's name, but there was a woman who was an investigator who was hired by Harry Houdini, and he wanted to, he wanted to debunk or disprove psychic mediumship, and specifically around people who were taking advantage of those who have lost someone near and dear to them.
Right.
And he hired several investigators to go ahead of his traveling show, his tour, if you will, to find and source potentials that are, in the area where they're going to, and then start to investigate them. And this woman, in the course of her time with Houdini, which was quite a few years, is said to have debunked about 1,500 false mediumships. And a lot of times they'd invite them to the show. She'd go to their home. She would tell them a story about who, what she was looking for. And of course, automatically that person would make contact. And the running joke was, she's made contact to more fake husbands than she ever did a real one, because she wasn't unmarried. But,
right.
In the course of time, then they'd invite this person to the Houdini show, and they would call them out on stage. And, they would be proved false, and it would be a huge problem. A lot of times the shows would end in fistfights, or at least there'd be fights with the people and the staff. So it kind of goes to, the debunking of this too. I mean, there are so many people who are looking for their 15 minutes of fame that don't really care about the consequence of the things that they're doing. In the case of Houdini's folks, they were taking advantage of people who were bereaved, and that's a shame. Someone who's lost somebody, we've all lost somebody, and we want to make contact to that person again. We want to talk to them again. We'll never get that chance. And
right.
Bless him for that, kind of thing, because he took, the lead of being the one saying, hey, no, enough of this. You're making money on people's pain, he had a bounty as well for like $10,000, as well, to disprove people. So, Houdini apparently had a lot of money in the day. So, but with that, in relative terms, I guess $10,000 back then was a lot more money than we probably think it is now in scale. But, there's two things to this. One is, I think that the people who come forward and are bold about it, probably, to my opinion, may not be as true. And
right.
I think more so because of seeing the way things have been done and how people are treated with special abilities through the years, more people who may be able to do such things aren't stepping forward because of fear of repercussion and being, taken down the path of being a false thing, and, just getting their names dragged through everything and every kind of mud there is. I don't know. I mean, I think it may be a little bit both, perhaps, but I could see both ways going. But nobody is jumping out like, this is how you become, a social media influencer, right?
Right.
Stuff like this, and I'm not aware of it at all.
But if you have the power and you don't want to be that, I mean, some people wouldn't. I can imagine some people wouldn't want the notoriety.
Right, exactly.
Like
the quiet life is more preferred, perhaps. I don't know. Well, if you could do it, what would you do?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't think I would be showing it off to everybody. I mean, cool parlor trick. I don't know.
Right.
But if you have the ability, then do you get shuffled away by the government and put in some black lab somewhere, and Yeah,
maybe that's why we haven't heard of people that happened already.
I mean, you hear what supposedly has been done with UFOs and things like that. They're all, if there is any proof, the proof disappears, and there was never any proof.
Right.
So
Project Blue Book. Right.
Yeah. Maybe that's what's happened here. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
If we.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
So if we're not here next week, maybe we stumbled upon something.
Yeah. Speak kindly of us, guys. We'll miss you.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know. I want to believe it. I think it would be great for people to have that ability. But what would you do with it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. This the ditto, friend, ditto. This is you get back to the Marvel thing and X-Men and all. It's like Magneto. With the ability to control metals. It takes me to Nina to some degree. He's in one of the movies. He's in a glass or plastic prison cell because metal doesn't hold him.
I've seen that one.
You saw that one. Oh, good. You have seen the movie. Okay, cool. But then they're slowly feeding the guard, shards of metal in every meal. Mystique is, taken over as his wife and feeding him, so now he's got metal in his body that, Magneto can draw out, and then that's how he escapes. And it's like, like those kind of things are kind of like Stranger Things. It's a scary concept of being able to control mass and matter and do things you want with them.
Yeah.
And I think I'd have to find a way to borrow an armored truck or something somewhere. But no, I wouldn't do it. To me, I'm talking to the government right now. I would never do that if I could, just so you know. All right, sir. I feel like we've nailed this one as hard as we can.
Okay. Well,
good work. I like this one.
Well, I feel like I didn't do it the justice it could have had, but if there was,
there's a need to sleep there too.
Yeah,
there's a need to sleep, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is kind of the spirit of why we do this. We're and I said this last week, I think, but we're finding stuff that we find interesting out there, and we're bringing it forward to us. And doing the best that we can with the time and the limited time that we have sometimes. With between kids and jobs and other stuff and expectations. It's kind of hard to plug stuff in sometimes, but you did a really good job, and I really appreciate it, especially finding the video work. That stuff from the video with Nina is really interesting. It's it makes you pause and at least think about it.
Yeah,
very cool, very cool.
So yeah, we'll have to come back to this one, maybe see if we can find any more information later down the road. So
okay, good deal.
So
speaking of what's down the road.
What is down the road?
Oh, thanks, Todd. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Well, we got some upcoming events. 2 weeks out yet. We're going to be on the 30th at the brewery. So a public investigation. A few tickets are left on this one, but they are starting to go again. And they will likely be gone by the time we get to the weekend of the 30th. So keep that in mind if you're interested in joining us out there. 2 weeks after that, we'll be back on the 13th of April, which I will not be at because I will be traveling home from Disney that day. So I'll miss you all there. But then a couple weeks after, May 11th, our big event out at Red Mill in New Jersey, the investigation with a campfire, Daryl Marston, Ron and Lourdes with Staticom, and the Jott-Nyx team, and maybe a few other special guests will be joining us there. It's a very long evening of a lot of fun, cool things. Red Mill is quite a complex. So if y'all not have been there yet, I do encourage you. And tickets are available, but again, they're starting to go as well. As we get closer, they'll start to thin out. So please come and join us there. It's a lot of fun, and it's an easy in and easy out, just over the line in Jersey. So. And then a couple other events coming up in May, June, 2 in June, but 1 in May at Booby's Brewery as well. Tickets are available at boobiesbrewery.com.
So ticket update, Jamie, on the 30th. The 30th, there's 2 tickets left online. 2 tickets. On the 13th, there's only 5 tickets left. I mean, we're just over a month.
People know I'm not going to be there, and they're buying them up, right? I get it.
Exactly. So, and not to detract from our event on the 11th, but you could do a 2-for-1 that day because White Hill Mansion is doing their Paracon that day.
Right.
So you could hit White Hill during the day, and then go up and do our event in the evening,
That's
into the
true.
night. So
That is a fun, filled day.
hmm I mean, I'm thinking about doing that. So
Actually, now I'm thinking about it too. Thanks, man. All right.
so
Yeah, we'll sleep Sunday sometime, right?
sure, yeah. So um speaking of other places too, this weekend, Saturday night, the Clifton Theater is doing they're showing Ghostbusters, and then they're doing a paranormal investigation afterwards. For $20 you can get in and do the movie and the investigation. So
That's awesome. And
So-
we both had the pleasure of being at Clifton. What a great place! What a cool place.
mhm.
Um,
If I
yeah,
didn't
wow.
have to be in Philadelphia on Saturday during the day, I
Right.
would have thought about it. I just don't think I
Course.
have that much driving in me in a day. So
You'd autopilot for that one.
mhm. So let's see. Then we've got our upcoming shows.
Yeah. So next week I'm going to tackle doppelgangers, and it's as I'm building this episode already, it's becoming interesting. Again, one of those things that I've always been curious about, didn't know a lot about before, but now I feel like I know much more. So please join us next week. 2 weeks out, we're a local opportunity for us here in Lancaster County, PA, but the Rockford Plantation, an active location, an old one for our community, and really cool place to visit as well, out in Lancaster County Park. And then I will be away, so we have our special guest, Steve Dills from the Hanover Tavern, with another special guest, one of his investigators. They're going to talk about the Hanover Tavern and the complex that's there of all the locations. So I'm sorry I'm going to miss that one, but I will try to chime in if I can as I'm out and about. Hopefully I will be in the Haunted Mansion around
Hopefully.
that time. So hopefully.
So
They're going to ask me to leave. I'm going to be there so much. So or that, or they're going to give me a name tag.
Now, speaking of the Haunted Mansion, Jamie's going to do an episode. We're still shuffling dates because him going away just throws up off the whole schedule. So we got
I'm sorry.
to work through it. But possibly the weekend or the week after the 9th. But we're going to look
16th.
at it and see.
Yeah, I'm
See how
going to hope that the downside of being on vacation is you don't have access to the stuff you normally would do for time and just the commitment you can make when you're out. So this is a family vacation. I have to
You have to be
play
with the
along.
family.
I'd be in big trouble when I get back. So, but we'll make that happen, and then hopefully I can capture some cool stuff while I'm there too. So more to come.
Yep. So.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess the other thing we always talk about is our social media stuff, which is there. So
You found us here either on Facebook or YouTube, but also TikTok and Instagram are open channels for us to connect and communicate and engage. We haven't had a lot of TikTok content yet lately, but I think we're going to work on that in a couple weeks. So hopefully we can get back up the pace on that. And then, obviously reach out to us in any of these ways if you're feeling like there's a topic you'd like us to cover here, or you have any questions about what we do as Jott-Nyx Paranormal, as our team, the events and spaces and places that we're at. We have some other stuff coming up later in the summer too, that as we get closer, we'll start posting, of course, but some opportunities to come out in the spaces that we're at out in the away from Booby's Brewery here in South Central PA. So we're gonna go road tripping a little bit later in the summer. So some cool stuff.
yeah, definitely looking forward to it. So
yeah, and as always, thank you all, because we can't do this without you. Well, we could, but it wouldn't be any fun. As much as we hang out and talk to each other all the time, it's a lot more fun when you guys join in. So appreciate your comments, appreciate your viewership, and hope to see you the next time as well.
Definitely. So
all right, sir.
All right. Well, Jamie, thank you for hanging out for a little while tonight.
Yeah, of course.
I'm looking forward to next week, Doppelganger. So hopefully I don't see myself somewhere.
Well, I say you might be seeing double, right? But I'm bummed.
So
there's good reason not to want to do that as well.
This is true. So
I'll
find out next week.
You will. So will I.
All right. On that note, I'm going to roll the end credits. Night, everybody.
Right on.
Thanks so much.
See you later.